Hello and welcome everybody. Today's chat is such an exciting topic that lots of people that I follow talk about or have talked about on their channel, and I wanted to put my 2 cents in. Past lives. For me, this has always been one of those subjects that I like to research about, because y'all know me. And then, I guess when I started out in my practice, I was confused because I always thought it was something different than reincarnation. And it's not. Now, according to the definition of reincarnation, it's basically like your soul or spirit that comes back from living multiple lives on and on and on down your line until the reality that is your life now remembers, on an unconscious, almost sub-unconscious level, some of the lives you've lived from past reincarnations. And I had a hard time about this kind of a concept in the beginning. I had deja vu a lot when I was growing up. And it wasn't, if you've ever experienced deja vu, it is really scary when you have no idea what it is and when no one tells you what it is. But I would have episodes where, and I had an active imagination, still do, it's its own entity. And I remember being in my tree or being out in the yard, that's mostly where I was, and I would be daydreaming, and then all of a sudden the scent of something would waft by. Something that really wasn't in the yard. Like a flower scent, or the wind would blow and it would smell like banana bread. One time I remember it smelled like banana bread. And I remember going like that, and it was like flashes of a memory or flashes of a feeling that I was like, I've done this before. Oh my God. When the hell was I in a tree eating banana bread? And it could have been way back, it smelled like banana bread to me, but it could have been something as simple as me sitting in a blind, me sitting in a tree hunting something, being real still, and I envision it being a banana tree, and I was eating one of the bananas, trying to be really quiet and stealthy, trying to hunt this particular animal, right? And when I get deja vu episodes like that, I do, I think it's called cryptomnesia. It's basically where, through your imagination, a narrative plays out, a story plays out, but it's really your imagination. Scientists say it's just your imagination going. But in those moments of high deja vu, and you're remembering something, not just like a flit, but when you think, oh, I've done this before, and I know I haven't done it before in this life. And so it's confusing and exhilarating all at the same time, right? And so I remember having these flashes as a kid and as a young adult and not having anyone to talk to about it. So I started really researching the topic of past lives within myself. If I've reincarnated, let's really try to activate some memories, And I don't really have I don't have a prominent birthmark. Not most people that you're like, oh, you have a birthmark, and they know exactly where it's at. That was all the rage when I was growing up, is to know where everybody's birthmark was. If it was in a place we could see. I looked for that. I looked for, I do have a witch's mark, but it's like a skin tag, and that's a whole other story. But I didn't have a prominent birthmark. I didn't have any scars that didn't come from this life. And when I was young, I didn't have any phobias or fears to link myself to a past life that way. But really, answers come to me in my cryptomnesia time. Having a really active imagination, I sometimes create my own stories and narratives through my mind sight. I'll call it through my third eye. When I go into trance meditative states, I activate my imagination in a way that I'll completely make up a whole world. It's like world building. And I always thought that that was so fascinating that I do that, and I always thought it was just my imagination. But then after I learned about past lives, started incorporating active imagination into like helping memories come about, helping certain things from those lives come out, it was such a profound thing because I learned so many things about myself now. Oh, like, well, that might be why I don't like to do this, this, and this. Or this might be why I'm passionate about this. I looked at my passions and like jobs that I've had, jobs that I didn't like, jobs that I really did like, and kind of linked those into active imagination narratives that pulled me into worlds from long, long ago where I would be, like when I'm in my herb garden and I get a spout of deja vu, it's the same kind of concept. I'll just take that thought, like, oh, I've cultivated an herb garden before. I've done this with this sage before. And it just takes me on a imagination journey, you know, like a spiritual journey, down rabbit holes to just ancient times where you're cultivating a garden. And the feeling, the exact same feeling I would get in this life, I had in those lives. And so I've in the last couple of years, I'll say I've been able to link those and make up narratives through the subconscious and through the unconscious, like in dream work. And it's just been like, spiritual journeying has been such a like top thing for my practice that I wanted to come on and talk a little bit about past lives in general. They say, people that research this in the high stance, reincarnation is believed in a couple of religious, spiritual circles, I'll say. Like in Hinduism, they believe in reincarnation. Like if you haven't done everything exactly like you're supposed to, you reincarnate into something else, and you just keep doing that. And the ultimate goal is to not reincarnate, is to finally make your way up to like the equal of the Godhead. You won't reincarnate after that, once you've lived your best life, basically. And so that's the ultimate goal. And I thought, wow, okay, so it's really kind of a scary concept too, to think, okay, well, what might have I done in a past life that restricted me from not reincarnating? Like what did I do in a past life that may have, like that one thing, or that multiple things, or the way I lived, like what were those things that I did or didn't do that caused me to reincarnate to however many lives until now. And so that can kind of be scary. Journal work has also, everyone that's watched my channel knows that I journal about everything. If it is a dream I had that didn't make sense, I'll write down certain aspects of those dreams. Mostly a symbol will pop out. Active imagination. When I have a lot of alone time because that's very important to me, and my kids know that, my husband knows that. So when I have those moments of complete silence within myself, it could be in the bath, like, you get your best thoughts in the showers, like that kind of a thing. I will just run with something. And it could be the way that, real talk here, it could be the way that my hair on the shower wall looks, and I see all of a sudden a figure emerges out of that, and then my mind goes right to a story, and then I just let this whole story play out while I'm in the shower. That's kind of how I deal with past lives. So if I have questions, or if I get a spout now of deja vu, or a memory, it doesn't even have to be all the way to deja vu. It could just be a memory that I know hasn't happened in this life. And that can be really weird, because I'll sit there and be like, we've never had a yellow couch. So, what the hell? And I take that and run with it. I try to see what the rest of the house looks like, what the people that are living there, or, what they look like and what they're doing. And what time on earth would this be, And so I really try to dive in the imagination with that for number one. So active imagination. Then I journal about that. I journal about, look, even if I can't get a really big story, like even in the shower, when I activate the imagination and make a story out of it, I try to journal about certain symbols that I did notice, like the yellow couch or banana bread. And then once I get done journaling about those things, I'll try, if I have enough time, to automatic write. Just let my brain just word vomit it all on paper until there's nothing left in there, and see what, once I come back to it in a couple of days, what I really got off my chest I didn't even know was on there. So that's helped. Also, journaling about dreams. Like I said before, I keep a dream journal by my bed, and I do not write every night's dream on there. It's usually dreams that I think mean something. And they don't have to mean something like divine light. It could just be something that I'm like, okay, well, this seems important in here to me. Let me just jot that down, It's just something about a pomegranate, and then I write that down. And then the next couple of days, something about Persephone will come up, like my last video, or like one of my last videos. And that kind of takes me on journeys too. Writing things down that may not seem important in the moment, but then they'll bloom out into things. So that's kind of how I combat learning about my past lives. I don't want to burden myself with details. I don't want to burden myself with, okay, I have to know if this is ancient Greece, or I have to know me as a hippie, or if this was me as a witch or a healer. I have to know I don't want to have to know anything. I want to just let the memory / like I said, cryptomnesia just come to me. I don't want to have to burden myself with actual details, because I don't believe that the brain would work that way. I believe that the details we get, whether in flashes of deja vu or memories we don't have from this life or dreams, they're going to be just that. They're going to be flashes. And if I burden myself with trying to, carve out the path, so to speak, I'm hindering the flashes coming, because it's like it's like a rock sitting on my brain, and I keep taking another rock and I'm pounding and I don't want to have to do that. So when I work with past lives, anything, I just try to let it flow naturally, and I think that has been really important for me. I know a lot of people that have done a lot of extensive work into their past lives, a lot of work into, like I said, maybe even the bad things, like the things that you did or didn't do in the past life, that you might not be ready to hear about. So I believe that the way the brain works, you're really not going to get a flash of something you're not ready to handle. And that's the beauty of not hindering those flashes, not burdening them to just, let's come on, or forcing it. I don't want to have to do that, because I want the brain to be like this, Let's free flow the work. Let's allow the work, be open-minded with the work, and let the memories and the deja vus come when they need to come, when I need them the most. And so it's not really that I have specific times that I'll past life, but for some reason, when I get the flashes or the memories, I tend to just know. Or I can link them with something else that's happened. Like, that blue couch came up in a dream the other night. What the hell does that mean? And then I will activate my imagination to come up with a story in a free flow way. And so that has helped a lot to kind of link things that have happened to me over the years and see if I can devise a story from all of those links. And sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes I'll get a flash of something and it means absolutely nothing to now or what I've been able to link. But it's important to kind of just keep that, like I said, in the back of your mind or on a journal page. And I don't have past life journals. I have a whole bunch of journals that are marked miscellaneous. if I get thoughts, if I get feelings, like if something somebody said to me triggered a really big reaction, good or bad, I'll write that down too. Because I know, okay, well, this wouldn't have excited me a couple of years ago. Why is it exciting now? And I do like to deep dive with how I have evolved as a person in this life alone. And the miscellaneous journals help with that. That's also where I put deja vu flashes and memories and certain dreams. Like if I've written it down on a dream in my dream journal, and then I remember something from one of my miscellaneous journals, then I'll write that in my miscellaneous journal on top of that, like highlighter style. So linking for me is important. Finding the synchronicities within your own lives. Like, it doesn't have to be like smacks in the face, and it doesn't have to be divine light, like, sometimes it's subtle. And I like the subtle things because it's a way for my brain to adapt and my mind to adapt around the subtleties. And then maybe in a couple of years, all those subtleties linked will be a big thing, or I've brewed something in my body for months or even years until it comes into fruition, or I birth something. Like, think about a birth. I've brewed and written everything down until it's just all churning in the cauldron that is my body and my mind. And then it spouts something out, and then I finally have the epiphany in however, an undisclosed amount of time. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that allowing those things to come is a beautiful thing. So I feel like I just rambled about that forever. About what I do in past lives. So I guess to recap, past lives for me in my life and how I kind of interpret that term is, this is not the only life you've lived. You have lived other lives in the past. And I won't even go into future lives because I feel like the duality should be important. So if we're studying on past lives, we should be studying on lives that we will have. And I feel like if they're all linked, then we should be linked with those as well. So, but, more on that later. Those are just my thoughts. So if I've lived multiple lives, and I feel, a lot of people have said this, but I do feel like it can be important in your life now to know about your past lives. It's even more getting to know yourself and getting to know why you don't like certain things, or why you have a certain fear or a certain passion for something. A certain passion for something is linking you to like all kinds of lives you've lived. Like I was a man in one of those lives. I was a dragon in another life. I mean, there's so many that I can link to now that I'm like, okay, well then that's why in this life, every time it's really, really windy and I can hear it through the house, I have to go out in it. And it's because it's the north wind calling the dragon. And I have to. No matter where I am, if I am somewhere and I can hear the wind whistling, I have to go out in it. And I take my hair down and I let the tongues of my hair just fly out. And then I activate my imagination and just sit there for 10 minutes and allow the dragon to fly. And I know that probably sounds crazy, but those are important to me. When I find the links to past lives, I try to incorporate things that they would need to do, or need to forage, or need to have in terms of passion, or, well, let's not do this because that would send you into it like an anxiety attack. Those are things that are good, because when you get those ailments, or like all of a sudden your knee just starts hurting for no reason, that it stops and makes you think about those instances that you've had, those flashes, and it sends you back to those lives for just a few minutes. And I know that those are beautiful things, those flashes and those memories, because I think it can help get to know who you are. But because this life isn't all that you are, you have to link them all. It's like ancestors. Like for me, I feel like we're all connected in like this flower of life type of a way. So that, to me, that's like past lives as well. So my circle of my life now is Vesica Pisces with a whole other life, and it just blooms out like this to the dawn of time. Much like all my ancestors, where all my blood mothers are connected to me. And like it's another thing that okay, so let's get back to this. Recap certain things that I have done to awaken these memories, if they don't just flash before my eyes, is like trance, actual meditative states, okay? Alter your state of consciousness. Zone the hell out and start with something that you've noticed in a dream, jotted down in a journal. I start with that. Now, I'm pretty versed with this, so I wouldn't say that your first journey should start this way. This is just me. But I zone the hell out. I take something that I've plugged from something I've written down, and I run with it, and for however long I've got. So that's one way. Write everything down. I do. I write everything down. I always have a composition notebook handy. I'll be reading something, and I'll get a flash, and then and sometimes it's a poem. Like, it has nothing to do with the memory or nothing, but I'll get flashes of something, and I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta write that down. And so I do that. Dream work. I do dream initiation, but that's a whole other video, okay? I promise I'll get to that eventually. But dream initiation is really important to me because I feel like, the subconscious just awakens when you're in your REM sleep. So, of course, there's going to be some gold there. So when you get flashes from the subconscious, like when you first wake up and come out of the dream, it's just really good to just, whatever you do remember, because sometimes the weight of the brain with consciousness coming like this, you forget certain things, but the things you do remember, write them the hell down. So that when you alter your state of consciousness, you can do that with like drumming and rattles. I like to use a rattle because I don't actually have a drum. But rattles, I sometimes listen to 432 hertz music. There's this thing for some reason that when I want to work with the active imagination directly with past lives, because I don't want to be listening to, like, say I'm listening to Gregorian chants, that will directly link my brain to when I was a nun, right, or something, and that kind of hinders the vision because I'm thinking about the inside of that church more so than I'm letting the vision come. So I like to listen to things that don't really have an undisclosed timeline or space, place. And I have found, which is kind of weird, but I have found that I like to plug in to YouTube ethereal female vocals. And I'm telling you, some amazing shit pops out with that. Like hour, 45 minutes worth of, like elven kind of a thing. And I don't know why it's female, mostly because when I hear males in like a tenor, that sends me back to a churchy place. But for some reason, like the elven female sends me on journeys, and it has. If I think about it, if I can remember, after I edit this, I'll leave some below in the description for you to check out because they are beautiful things. And so music, certain types of instrumental or vocals that aren't really saying anything. Those are great things. Those are great tools to have too, because for me, music is that's like the top tool for me, is some kind of vibrational music, and the rattle. Like my jewelry even rattles. So those are things that I like to do to activate my imagination, to send me to those past lives, to figure out things about them to help me learn about myself. And they have been beautiful experiences. So, dream work, journal work, active imagination work, okay? And please know that my opinion on imagination is just that. It's my opinion. I believe that the imagination, especially the way I have worked with mine since I was a child, it is a separate thing for me, okay? My imagination, I work with it so much that it has become a really helpful tool. And so I never have those doubts as like, has this really happened, or is this a memory? Doubting myself. I haven't doubted myself since I was a kid. Like, when people tell you, oh, that's just your imagination, yeah, it is. And that is a powerful entity for me. Mine is like, I can invent, like, he's back here and he's so free. He's like one of those things that's like in a used car park, and it's just like whenever I need him, he just, all of a sudden the wind goes and he comes down to get me. Like, he's just such an entity. It's not even funny. I use him all the time, and he's a great tool. And so I don't doubt myself. And if you activate your imagination, having those doubts and those fears about what you see not being real, those are hindrances. And I say just let them come. Let your imagination flow, okay? There's this great meme that's like, to end, there's this great meme that's going around that says, when you are going through something and you come to a healer, okay, I'll call them a healer, them, they ask you, when did you stop dancing? When did you stop having childlike innocence? When did you stop singing? Okay? Those are questions they ask. I have never stopped dancing. I sing all the time. Even if it's like an answer to a question that your kids have, just be like, it's in the refrigerator. Like, it could be something as simple as that. And childlike innocence, to me, it's hard when we're adulting to have those types of thoughts. But like what I do with the wind, what I do when I go out there and I see new daisies coming up in the garden, it sends me back to when I was 4 years old and making daisy chains. And I activate that in the moment to bring that innocence to life. We're not innocents anymore. We're not. And when our innocence is severed, those are harsh things, Like now, it's like if I lose a tooth from decay, think about what the tooth fairy would say. I think about that. Like, I lost a tooth, literally from like a root canal. And I was like, I wonder what the tooth fairy would say if she was here now. Those types of thoughts. Allow the imagination to go. That's how you activate your whole self, for me. And so that's what I do. And this is how I work with past lives. And I didn't want to go too in depth on what they were, but they're beautiful things. And I feel like the most important thing we can do for ourselves is know ourselves. We're not going to know everything. Going on journeys to find out things about yourself and things about why you have certain nicks, in relationships, or why you have certain relationships with the way you raise your kids. or the way you clean your house, or the way you work at your job, work with other people, like strange people, like people that are not your family, and your neighbors. Stuff like that. Those are important things. I enjoyed rambling about this. Maybe I'll put that on here, that this was really a witchy ramble. So, have some really good dreams. Much love to all the people that are out there activating their imagination and getting back in touch with their childlike innocence. And I hope to revisit some juicy topics like this in the future. So much love.